Hey, welcome to Slice of Life, where faith meets the everyday. I'm James, and each podcast I invite someone to dive into the moments that shape us, challenge us, and draw us closer to Christ. From coffee shop conversations to carpool reflections, we're talking about real life and the spiritual truths that help us live it well. So grab your slice of time and let's grow together. Well, welcome to Slice of Life. We're going to have a good time. Stephanie and I, we're going to talk about dysfunctional families are the norm.
Yep.
So you got to pick this topic. So why don't you kick us off?
So throughout the Bible, you see a lot of families functioning at less than peak standard.
They're very below nominal.
Below nominal. I mean,
Yep.
you've got Joseph, who, let's be honest, young Joseph had some issues with saying things he probably shouldn't have said in front of his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decide, well, let's kill him. No,
Yeah.
we'll sell him into slavery. That's nicer.
Yeah.
Do that instead.
Yeah.
And that's not the only time. We've got
Yeah.
Jacob and Esau tricking their dad and trading blessings for...
Who's Esau? Esau?
Okay, you know what?
I'm just messing.
However you say it.
That's why I wanted to mention it, because I think
Esau.
most of us don't speak Hebrew, right? So
No.
to be able to pronounce the names correctly are incredible. But
Wait, which one's right then?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
So you got them.
Yep.
You got the brothers trading birthrights for soup.
Yep. Yep.
Tricking dear old dad.
Yep.
I mean, you got Noah's sons.
Yep.
You got
Yep.
Ham having some privacy boundary issues.
Here's the question. Okay, Bible question. You're working on your master's,
I am.
right?
I just started my last class.
Yeah. Okay. So she's
Good.
close. So name one functional family. Do 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 do.
I would maybe make an argument for Mary and Joseph being a functional family.
Okay.
I mean, baby out of wedlock, maybe it's not a great start, but the Holy Spirit was involved, so I think we can give them a
They
pass on
left
that.
their child at the temple.
Look, speaking to the parents, I think we've all lost count before.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, maybe not at the temple.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure
Okay.
2 of my 3 kids have been locked in a car before on accident.
A day later.
A day later's a little rough.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Okay. Hold
All
on.
right. Okay.
We'll get there. What about Ruth and Naomi? That seemed functional.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, aside from 3 funerals and
Okay.
a wedding, but
Yeah.
the women have that. The women have it down.
Is that a
pat.
movie? Is that a movie? 3 weddings and a funeral, or
that's
3
Naomi's-
funerals and a wedding?
That's Naomi's life, right?
That's exactly.
But maybe that's because she did kind of trick Boaz though, huh? Was it trickery?
I don't know. It was trickery. It was different.
It was different,
right?
Okay, so maybe
Different.
not?
I don't know.
Can you name one?
No, I can't. That's why I
definitely
asked.
not
I'm like,
David. No,
I
definitely
know.
not David.
no, but I think that is the norm. The
It's just to be kind of messed
dysfunction
up.
in the Bible was norm, and I love that idea, because you do find individuals that have good days, but even the best of the best still did poorly, right? Like there are just moments. I had this conversation recently with someone who was kind of upset at me. So Eli's an Old Testament prophet,
Right.
priest, right? Sage, or what they call a seer, pre the king, right? Pre Saul, right? That moment at the end of the book of the Judges, he comes in, we see him, Eli, massive guy, thought of as one of the greatest prophets of the Old Testament. And I was teaching one day, and I was teaching on how bad Eli was. They're like, this guy got really upset at me because he's like, what do you mean? He did all this, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, he was a horrible parent.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
His sons, Phineas and Ferb, right? Hey, that's my joke. It's Hoffany, by the way. They're horrible. They're horrible guys.
Yeah.
Right? Horrible guys. Eli knows this. He condemns his sons at one time, tells them, hey, shape up. But he never does anything.
Yeah,
about it.
That was the extent
right?
of it, was hey, shape up.
Eli ends up dying. I love the story. read your Bible, by the way. I need to say that to people. People, they tell me how boring the Bible is, right?
Not if
just,
you read Judges.
just read the Bible. But Eli dies. Phineas and Hophni, they take the Ark of the Covenant. The Philistines capture the Ark. They die. The sons die. Word gets back to Eli. Eli at this point is old, blind, and fat. And I'm talking about like Weird Al fat. I'm fat, right? You know it, I'm fat, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, Weird Al fat. He is huge, like massive, right? Why do I say that? Well, because he hears the news, the dude falls over and crushes himself.
Yeah.
That's how fat he is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? His belt size is equator, right? Sorry, we're going fat mama jokes now. He's massive.
Okay.
Well, why do I bring that point? I know I don't know, I'm lost. I bring that point because we're talking about dysfunction. So he was fat because he was actually eating the meat that his sons were taking out
Right.
of the offering that was not his.
Yeah.
It says the word says the fat is the Lord's. All the fat on the meat was supposed to be burnt up. But what they were doing is his sons, as the priests, were allowed to have food, right? They ate portions of the sacrifice, but they were taking out the better portions. They were taking out the fatty portions. They were taking out the portions that they weren't supposed to be eating. And guess who was eating it? Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was not the right guy. Yes, he heard from God, right? Although it says that the word of God was very silent. Samuel, who was raised by Eli, or raised in that moment, right? Finally heard the word of God. It was silent at that point. So even Eli, who was so great, well, he didn't punish his sons. He didn't tell them to stop what they were doing, and he ate the food that he wasn't supposed to be eating, right? And so when we think about dysfunction, the best of the best, Samuel, who was an incredible prophet, guess what? He was a bad parent too.
This is not looking good for the prophets.
I wonder where he learned that from. Well, Eli, right? I mean, so you just look at this, and I think that the Bible, it's all about dysfunctional family. You go from the very beginning, Adam and Eve, dysfunctional, right? All the way through. There's not a family that you can trace back and go, they're a good family, right? They're just sin upon sin upon sin. There's these little stories. I think the Esther Mordecai story is a good story. It's kind of weird though. It's not really. They're a dysfunctional family, right?
Yeah, because we don't even know where her parents are.
Yeah, right. And so and then you mentioned Naomi and Ruth and but that's kind of dysfunctional as well. Both the boys die. One of the daughter-in-law leaves, and the other one stays and goes with her, and just kind of it's not husband, wife, kids, white picket fence world where everything is just working perfect. And so somehow in our world today, we think that's what the normal family is, right? But if we look at the Bible, the normal family was not normal because we're all sinful.
Yeah.
Right. Not that we should be dysfunctional. I'm praying that people have functional families.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take us to the point where it equates to not being able to be used by God. God actually grabbed all these dysfunctional people and used them.
Yeah.
Used them after their dysfunction, during their dysfunction, and sometimes before they became dysfunctional.
Right.
Right. So none of that mattered to him God, in the sense of he could use who he can use.
Yeah.
It was his power, his ability to take all those things, like Joshua had said, or Joseph had said, right at the end of the day, like what you meant for harm, God meant for good. Right? He's going to take all that and transition it.
So how does that relate to how we live as our families? Do we just embrace the dysfunction and go crazy?
Yeah, we're just horrible people. Yeah, whatever. No, I think it's the other side of the coin. The one side is like, I have dysfunction. Man, my story is dysfunction. Right. Early on, right, my family's dysfunctional. Right. But it didn't mean that I wasn't able to be used by God. But on the other side, what it should have meant for me is that I learned from my early upbringing, the dysfunction, the divorce in my families, the stuff that happened, all of that, that I should then take that and go, okay, well, then how do I become better and not
Right.
repeat the generational sins, not repeat the sins of the past, not do that which I've seen,
Yeah.
right? Because I know that's not God's ultimate goal. Creation, He made male and female. They would multiply, be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion over the earth, rule the earth together, right? That was His original design. So original design is not dysfunction,
Right.
right? It's function.
Yeah.
That everyone is doing their part, their role. They're functioning correctly. The husband's doing his job. The wife's doing her job. The kids are doing their job. The parents are doing their job, right? Look in the New Testament, and the Old Testament has it as well, but New Testament, most people know that a little bit better. There are so many rules, or not. I hate to call them rules, but this is how you live.
Guidelines.
This is how. Yeah. There you go. Guidelines. This is how you should live as a husband, as a father, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a son, as an old person. This is how you treat the widows and non-widows. Right? There's all these. This is how I function in this world. This is the correct way. And yet Paul, what do we see Paul doing so often is writing to him saying, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
You're okay with this son sleeping with his mother-in-law, right? You're okay with all these things. You're like, grace is abounding, but that's not what I've called you to.
Yeah.
It's great that grace abounds where sin abounds, but what Paul tells us is, but don't sin.
But don't abuse it.
Right?
Yeah.
like God is giving you the ability not to sin, and it is not dysfunction sinning. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Dysfunction is a sin.
Because it's contrary to the original.
To the original design.
Yeah. Right. So how do we get out of that? How do we get out of the dysfunction?
Oh, we have to first of all know that we're dysfunctional.
Okay.
Right? And I think that's where the struggle is that I think a lot of people have accepted dysfunction as the norm.
Okay.
It might be the norm, meaning that's what we see, but it shouldn't be the norm. It shouldn't be the standard. It shouldn't be the foundation.
Right.
To realize that, no, God has called me to a higher level. God has called my family to a higher level. God has called me to be the father in the image of God, to be the image bearer. I've been preaching about this recently too, right?
Yeah.
That's what God has called me to be, so that that's the standard, right? I'm living below the standard, and I've got to be able to get to the point where I see that and go and recognize, man, I'm living below the standard, right? This is not how I'm supposed to. Now, maybe that's how I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it done that way for my whole life. Doesn't mean it's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? I've got to get to the point where I see it and I go to myself, I think there's a better way. It's interesting to me because I think when we look at the I'm trying to think of the word, the revitals that have happened, right? These revivals,
Okay.
right, that have happened. We always, we talk about those, and what we forget about, and even the Reformations, when they happen because somebody thought maybe there's a better way.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
right?
I can do a little bit better.
Maybe we're missing the point.
Yeah.
Luther, Wesley, Calvin, even go back to Josiah in the Old Testament. He was the king in the Old Testament, young guy, right? They find the book of law, which just drives me. I just can't even imagine. I mean, here's the deal. I know we're going to go off topic, but we'll get back there. But Josiah becomes king of Israel, right? A split nation. That's a longer story,
right?
But of Judah, basically. And so he's there at the temple. The temple's become disarrayed, right? Just and they find all this money that's been set aside to take care of the temple, but they've not been doing anything because the temple didn't matter,
right?
Which is just insane. But he goes, okay, let's fix the temple. As they're fixing the temple, they find the Torah. They find let's say the Ten Commandments for those of you that maybe don't know what I'm talking about, but they find Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. They find it.
Just like in a storage box.
It's been lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Understand, the nation of Israel is only the nation of Israel because of the Torah.
Right.
It would be like us losing the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. we're getting ready to celebrate 250 years,
Yeah.
right? And not only did we lose it, we have no idea what it says.
Were they even aware that they had lost it?
No,
Yeah.
they didn't know what it said. It was like, hey, we found this book. Hey, King Josiah, we found this book. We're not sure what it is.
Yeah.
The priests
The priest didn't know what it was.
I found a book.
Yeah.
And Josiah reads the book, he tears his clothes apart because he begins to go into mourning.
Right.
Because he's like, we have completely missed everything.
We screwed up.
At this point.
Yeah.
Right? They hadn't been doing this, the Passover. That's all even a whole nother story. Right? They had lost their complete identity. And then Josiah brings this revival about. Well, that's what the revival is about. This Reformation is about every single time.
Yeah.
Is a people group going back into the Bible and going, oh man, we've missed the point. As Christians with our families, we have to get back to that point. Yeah. That we go back and go, oh, there's a better way. Right? I've been doing a lot of study on discipleship. That's what my doctorate's on, right? Working on my dissertation for that. And it's really interesting. I keep finding I keep coming back to the same thing. Discipleship started in the family.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The mom and the dad taught their children.
Yeah.
Right? They taught them reading, writing, arithmetic, and the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? They were involved in the rearing of their children, of raising them up in the way that they should go, that when they got old, they would not depart from it. I've read that somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Yeah.
Bible.
I'm vaguely familiar. Maybe.
Okay. Right. And that's the norm from the beginning of the world.
Right.
But we are in 2026 where the parents have little or no impact on their children in education.
Because we farmed it all out.
Both reading, writing, arithmetic, and Bible. Yeah. No, we're busy now. Both parents are working. Make every excuse you can make, right? But when I look at the norm of creation, it's always been the parents.
Yeah.
What does God desire? He even tells fathers, listen to this. Men, you lazy men who are playing video games, the word says you are to raise your child, to train them, to teach them. But we have given the women the role.
Yeah.
And yet the word says that we're part of that. Men, we're supposed to be part of that.
Yeah.
And we've ignored all that. And until I get to the point where I realize, man, there must be something better, right? That I'm not functioning as I'm supposed. Therefore, I'm dysfunctional. Yeah. I'm not functioning as I should be functioning as a father, as a husband, as a wife, or as a mother, as a family. Until I get to that point, I'll never change. Yeah. Right?
You have to understand it's wrong.
I'm doing good enough is not the answer.
That's not the standard.
What the answer is, I'm not doing well enough.
Right.
You know, that I'm living below the standard that God has set for me.
Yeah.
Right. Now, people are probably listening and be like, well, I'm not. I'm doing, maybe you are. Maybe you're doing a great job. Right. And I commend you for that. But can I say just the majority, you're not doing the right stuff. You know, and I look at how I raise my daughters and, you know, I wish I could do it all over again. And I think I got great daughters. I love, they're both doing very well in life. They're not pregnant out of wedlock. They both have great jobs. My youngest daughter lives with us still, and she's serving in the church, doing her thing, right, growing. And, my oldest daughter, she's living on her own, doing great. They have a good, healthy view of God, good, healthy view of men, relationships, all that, right? And I see all that, but I even realized when I look back, man, I could have done greater. I could have done more. I could have, right, been a better father, been a better example. I think there's always these moments where we realize, man, we could be greater. But more than that was just looking at the times of ministry so often where I had to go off and do ministry, and I wasn't there for every moment of their life, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there's moments, but I think we talked about Micah chapter 6 verse 8. Love that verse, But it says to walk humbly with our God. That walking humbly is to understand that I'm not good enough, right? And we've all got to get to that level, I believe, if we want to have a functional family.
Yeah.
It's to go, hey, like David, test me, know me, see if there be any wicked way in me, right? Lead me in the way that I might understand you. And we put our families in that moment and say, God, where am I not honoring you? God, where am I dysfunctional in my family?
Yeah.
Am I raising my kids up? And for me as a dad, and a little bit of my story is growing up in a very broken home. Mom married multiple times, grandmother married multiple times. I didn't meet my dad till I was in my 20s. My actual father in my 20s. At 8 years old, I began to pray for a wife. I mean, I don't even like girls at 8 years old.
Right.
Right. But I knew I didn't want to live in that world.
Yeah.
Right. I knew enough, and I began to pray at 8 years old. And then when I had daughters, all I could think about is like, man, God, I want to break the generational curse of women in my family who got pregnant out of wedlock. That's why it's such an important thing. Got pregnant very early. My mom had her first, my brother, when she was just 15, just 15.
Yeah.
She got pregnant at 14,
Yeah.
right? Because she wanted to get out of the house, right? I mean, you see that dysfunction. And so then I looked at my role as a father being like, I'm going to show my daughters how a man treats a woman, right? I realized that was my function. And I think when we think about what God has called us to, we should be taking our role seriously.
Yeah.
What is my role? I'm the husband. Number one, husband. Right. That's my, even with kids, number one role is I'm a husband. Right. I take care of my wife. I sacrifice my life for my wife. Right. Just as Christ has sacrificed himself for the church. That's my number one role. Okay. What's my number two role? Okay. I'm a father. Right. And so how do I function in those roles?
Yeah.
Right. And I have to go at that point, then that's where we go to the next level. I realize I'm not living up to the right standards. Well, then I go, that second job is then to find out what those standards are.
Yeah, and to be a studier of the word, so
Right.
you do know what the standards are.
What does God require? What does he expect?
Yeah.
And the Bible doesn't have, this is going to sound really weird. I'm about to say something, so don't turn it off until I'm done. The Bible doesn't have an answer for everything.
Okay.
Right.
You better keep going.
I know, right?
You're
Everyone's
take
like,
your license.
thick. Okay. Right. Because it doesn't answer every single question.
Yeah.
Because it's not a rule book.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People are like, I'm a pastor, and I'll say it all the time. Go to the Bible; it has answers. But there are going to be situations you're not going to find the exact same moment. Now Solomon writes, "There's nothing new under the sun," which is correct, right?
Yeah.
The attitudes, the hearts, right? But it is a guide, right? And the guide is guiding us to God,
Right.
the Holy Spirit, to go, okay, I've got a decision to make. How do I walk in this season? How do I do my role? And so, my daughter's dealing with this situation, and I can't find the exact situation in the Bible, right? It doesn't mean I go to Oprah at that point, right?
That'd be a wild leap.
But what does it mean? Well, it means I go, okay, God, how do I answer this?
Yeah.
What's the the moral right, the moral wrong? I know.
So we have
going
to
ethics.
have intimacy with the Holy Spirit.
Oh,
be able
yeah.
to talk. To
Yeah,
the
isn't
Holy
that
Spirit
weird?
And know.
Isn't that weird?
Ooh.
But I think that's
the point.
That's the point of the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Is like the Bible does give us a guide and gives us parameters, but all of those parameters point to one thing: know God.
Right.
And to be known by God and to know God. That's the whole point of that. And so, yeah, it may not have the exact answer for me, but I know who does have the right answer for me.
Yeah.
But if I don't start with humility, and I don't start in the moment where I say, well, maybe my family's not as functional as they could be. Maybe I'm not living my role the way I should be living. And okay, what does the Bible say? Okay, well, now there's this situation I've never dealt with before. I don't see the answer clearly spelled out in the Bible for me. Okay, Holy Spirit, talk with me.
Yeah.
You know.
So how does that work outside of our immediate like household family, because I know like I've got dysfunction not in my immediate family but up through the generations.
Hey, I know your husband. You have
Okay, you know what?
dysfunction.
That's true.
Okay,
That's
come
a
on,
that's a
come
good
on. He's
point. On my side of my genetic line, right? Not my married line.
but
We have it
I'm messing,
higher.
Jason. I love you, man.
We have it through the grandparents
Yeah,
more. And
right.
there's family members that you're like, I don't want to be
Yeah,
around you.
yeah,
And I know like it's a lot more prevalent in my generation of, raising our children where we'll cut off the toxic family
right,
members. Whereas
right.
with my parents, when they were raising us, it was, well, their family
Your
and we
family,
need
yeah,
to keep them in the family and you only have so much in a.
right.
How do you, where do we go with that dysfunction? Like if someone is
Yeah,
actively being dysfunctional, has no intention to
yeah,
not be dysfunctional,
yeah.
do you still let them in your
Well,
family?
I
Where do
think
you go with that?
we ask God, right? Number one. That's the end of the story.
Right.
No, but
Okay.
I think, the Bible tells us there's a balance, right? The turning the other
Right.
cheek concept, right? It is this idea that when someone is going to do harm to you, you actually allow them to do harm to you in that moment, right? Because there's a self-sacrificing piece, right?
Right.
But balance that now
With
with
wisdom.
my wisdom and,
Yeah.
and my responsibility as a father.
Right.
As a father, I'm to protect my kids,
Yeah.
right? And so Uncle Joey cusses all the time, is an alcoholic. Uncle Joey's. I'm not going to let my kids around Uncle Joey.
Yeah.
I don't want them to hear that language, and I don't want them to see the alcoholism, right? And to
And
deal
that's okay.
with that, right? Well, I'm protecting my kids now. Again, so there's this balance of like I need to be the salt and the light, right? Which means I need to be in the darkness,
Yeah.
right? In that concept, like I can't always just hang out in the light. There's going to be moments that I'm going to enter into darkness,
Yeah.
right? I realize that, right? I'm not seeking it, but I also realize, but when I get into that moment, I'm around Uncle Joey. That's my opportunity to tell him about Jesus. That's my opportunity to love on him and to hopefully get an opportunity, right? But what's my other role? Well, my other again as a father, right? My kids aren't going to be around Uncle Joey
Yeah.
because that's wrong. Because I'm hurting. I'm not going to hurt my kids to help him,
Yeah.
right? Now, if I'm alone, I'm there to help him,
Yeah.
right? I can handle that,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's that counterbalance that we've got to look at and try to figure out. Okay, again, if we talk about what's my role, my number one role, obviously, is a child of God. Okay, we'll just go there, right? We're talking families.
Yeah.
Number one role as a man, married, my wife,
Yeah.
right? Number two is my kids, right? I those are my top two. I've got to nail those.
Right.
Right. The Bible actually tells us if a man can't steward his own family, he shouldn't be doing any leadership. He shouldn't be doing
Yeah.
anything else. Right. So I've got to nail those two. Then I begin to look. Okay, what's my next role? Then that's ministry.
Right.
Right. But I got to get those first two done.
Yeah.
If I don't do those two, and we were just talking about family earlier, right? And even extended family or those that are really close to me, my role is still my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
I got to take care of them first.
Yeah.
And so anything I do that harms them is wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong. Right. And so I begin to look at my life in that standpoint because the third thing is ministry.
Yeah.
So, and that ministry might be to my mom and dad,
Yeah.
right? Or my brother, my sister, whatever, right? But I got to nail those first two.
Yeah. The ministry can't come at the expense
Exactly.
of the family unit.
Right. And I think too often one of the problems that we have is family, and so I'm going to allow you to be around. I mean, I won't say that because someone might might hurt, but you have family. I guess I'll say a part of it. You got family members, and we've had conversations with our daughters. It says, hey, we've got this situation, and we're going to see him, and just know this.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we
don't have to have details, but enough to be like, okay, so
Yeah.
so and afterwards we talked about it, right?
Yeah. We have one of those in our family.
Right.
But then my question now as a parent, why?
Yeah.
Why did I see that person as a child?
Yeah.
And not trying to bag on my parents at all by any means, because they did what they felt like was right and they felt like they did what they were called to do.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would make that choice.
Right.
You know, like looking back and as a parent today, if there's someone in my family who I have to explain to my kids, they're not a safe person, you can't be alone with this person, or
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing it
Yeah.
because I don't want to go to jail.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
To be, you know, and I
No.
don't want my kid to have trauma.
Right. And I think that's it. Is like, again, we look at those roles, and I think not that we're better than our parents,
No, absolutely.
but I think it's a different mindset that's
Yeah.
coming about,
Yeah.
you know, and realizing how costly dysfunction is.
Oh yeah.
Right. I think 40 years ago, and even today, it's still the same thing. Sexual abuse is such a big one. It happens within families all the time.
Yeah.
And what normally has happened, and I say 40 years ago, it's still happening, but it just was the norm, is that you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And yet you still have family reunions, and that guy that did that thing to that kid is still there.
Yeah.
We don't, what was that? What's that? We don't talk about Bruno. I'm trying to think of that.
Yeah, that's
right?
the song. We don't talk about Bruno, yeah.
Right. We don't talk about that. You know, it happened. It's, not big. Forgive and forget. You know, and then you find out he's actually done it with other kids. You're right, like all the way down through, right, which causes another cycle to go through, and I don't know if it's just getting more publicity today. I feel like a lot of those are coming out a little bit greater because they should.
Yeah.
But as parents, because they don't want to, put a black mark on anyone. They don't want to ruin anyone's. I don't want to ruin. He was young. I don't want him to. He's only 20. I want to ruin his life.
No, I'm ruining life.
Ruin his life.
I'm ruining lives.
Ruin his life.
That.
Because we know he's going to do it with someone else, right? And he's going to do that same thing. And I think that's a change of mentality, and that's what the Bible would talk about. Micah 6:8 was do justice, right? And I'm talking about not judgmenting and being judgmental whole thing, but I think at the same point, what am I doing? I'm supposed to protect my kids. I'm supposed to protect my uncle, my nieces, my nephews, right? I'm supposed to be there. And so I think that's a very big dysfunctional piece, a very ugly one. But too often we've hidden that one away, and we allow our kids to be in those scenarios and think, well, I can watch them. And so many of the stories are incredible because you hear these stories later on, and you're like, how did we miss that?
Yeah.
How did he get our kid? I thought we were watching, right? And parents, let me just speak to you. No, man, you're called to protect your kids, and don't bring them into a dark place.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, man, we've become so comfortable with dysfunction that again we've made it a norm, and it's okay. We don't like it, but it's just how the world works. That is not the mentality of God. Right? He's like, I don't like it, and that's not how it's supposed to work. I don't want it to work that way.
And you should not like it either.
And exactly. You should not be participating in it.
Yeah.
And as parents, we shouldn't be bringing our kids into that situation.
Yeah.
Right? I'll get in that situation without my kids because he ain't going to touch me.
Yeah.
Right?
You're capable of defending yourself.
Exactly. Right? But I protect. And again, even if it's not that dark and it's, just other things, like I'm old enough, I'm mature enough now to handle that.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm mature enough in Christ to handle a lot of that. Right. And to speak into it and be willing to like really offend them. I mean, the point of like, I ain't going to mess around with your garbage.
Right.
My kids aren't. I'm not going to put them in that situation. Yeah. Right. But that's creating that standard again of remembering, who am I? I'm a husband. I'm a father. I got to get those two. And when I'm good with those two, then I can go into ministry.
So would you say then, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble when I say this, but I'm going to do it anyways. You wouldn't let young children be around a homosexual couple? Yeah. Which then that means you have to explain to that person who you're related to, like, sorry,
all right,
my kid's not coming around you because that's not what we believe in.
Yep.
And we don't want them to be confused.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is like, that's when I think a lot of Christians get the bad rep,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
because then
completely.
that family member is going to say, "Oh, I thought Christians were supposed to love. I thought da 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 da." How, Bishop? How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Because that's messy.
It is a mess, and so many are dealing with it today. And I think, I'd shared the story, and it's a great story in the Bible. Jesus, with the adulterous woman,
Right.
right? These Pharisees bring her like she should be stoned. The whole thing, Jesus writes in the dirt. Takes time. And I think that taking that time is that moment away with God, with the Holy Spirit, saying, okay, how do I deal with the situation? What is the right answer in this moment? Because I mean, I can blatantly just say, yeah, they shouldn't be around. But there's going to be times that they're going to be around, and there's going to be
Right.
some standards. There's going to be something in scenarios and situations. Because at the end of the day, we need to love them and tell them it's
Yeah.
the right way, right? Right. As at the same time, and this is going to sound almost tongue in cheek, but we also have to expose our kids because they're going to be exposed to certain things,
Right.
but expose them in the moment where we can teach them, right?
Okay.
And so by saying, okay, you're never going to be poor Joe, all right, Uncle Joe, he's an alcoholic and cusses and he's a homosexual, right?
Joe needs some therapy.
Right, he needs help, poor guy. You know, um, somewhere they're gonna meet Uncle Joe,
Right. And I
right?
can't control whether or not they're going to meet Uncle Joe. He's
Right, and they're gonna
he's
meet
there.
his friend George,
Right.
and they're gonna
His
what
roommate.
what's George up? Why, right? And we have to be able to instruct our kids
Yeah.
and teach them right and wrong and what it means, and then teach them also by how we treat them,
Right.
right? And so I think that's the problem is that where do we draw this line? And I've got some, there's so many stories I could tell. One I think is very interesting, because it's something that I would have never thought of, never knew. So we had a family. They had three children. Two of the children were born with XXY
Okay.
chromosomes, right?
Right.
And at the age, this is 50, 60 years ago, right? Or I think so. I think I know he was in his 50s at least. Maybe she's in 40s, maybe. So quite a while ago, right? And when the baby was born, because of how they were born, they had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Is it a girl or is it a guy?
Yeah.
I'm gonna raise it as a guy. I'm gonna raise a girl. So the oldest they raised as a boy, the youngest they raised as a girl. Boy got married, like feminine features, right? But got married, had a kid, right? The
Yeah.
whole thing, right? The daughter, more masculine features. As she got older, is living a homosexual lifestyle, right? Um, you know, and so the parents they're just beating themselves up,
Oh yeah. Because
right?
how?
Because they made a decision,
Yeah.
right? And then so I bring that story up because we love to be black and white. Well,
So
that
much
that's so gray right there
There's so much gray.
in that arena. Now, because she identifies as a woman and she's married to a woman, right? That's a wrong relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the mom is saying, "Hey, she's coming. She's bringing her partner, right? And they want to stay at the house.
Yeah.
You know, what do I do, Pastor? What do I do?" That's one of those moments you're like, I wish I wasn't a pastor.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell her, call Oprah.
Jimmy Swaggert's your
Right?
pastor now.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Jimmy Swaggert's your pastor. Go call him.
Throw back to a few episodes.
Right. But I'm like, would you let your daughter bring someone she's not married to and sleep in, right?
Yeah.
Because what do we believe? Well, we believe that a woman and a woman or a man and a man cannot be married,
Right.
right? Marriage between a male and a female,
Yeah.
right? And so, what do you believe? Oh, I believe that. Do they want to stay in the same room? Well, yeah. You can't allow it.
Yeah.
She says, well, but they may never come back. Like, but are you going to compromise what you believe?
Yeah. You
Right?
have to answer for everything you do.
Everything you do. And so that and it's hard, man. I don't want
It's
anyone
heartbreaking.
I don't want anyone to think I take any of this lightly. But what do I believe?
Yeah.
What are my convictions? I cannot come down from my convictions. If the Bible says this, that's my standard, and I'm going to try to stick with that standard. Meaning, try to like know it, know what it really means, apply it into my life, and that's my standard. And guess what? My kids in this scenario, I was telling her, your daughter knows your standard.
Oh yeah.
She was raised in your home.
Yeah.
She knows what you believe. I said, and yeah, this might hurt her, but you are going to be one of the first people she's ever sees that actually sticks with their standard, because everyone else is bending them one way or the other. And I've had, I wish I could tell you I've only had one or two of those conversations. I've had dozens of those conversations over the last decade.
Have they gone up more in the
completely. It's something I'm having. I wouldn't say on the regular, but on the regular now.
Yeah.
Right, dealing with this lifestyle and how things go, and just and so often what's sad to me is that the parents, I'm seeing a lessening, meaning that a lessening of following their convictions. Right. And I think when we talk about, so kids, we're going back to the kids, bringing them in that situation. I know eventually they're going to have to be in that. I know they're going to see it, but there are standards and there's things that are set in my life. One parent asked one point, said, "Hey, my I think it was actually a grandparent. My granddaughter wants to bring, or grandson, either one, doesn't matter, wants to bring, what do I do?" I said, "Well, would you do that with anyone else?"
Right.
And she's like, "Well, actually, no. We don't. We only allow family members, right, to come to this Christmas party or whatever it was." I said,
Which the person knows that.
Why would you change that?
Yeah.
I don't want to offend them. I'm like, no. Well, what's your conviction?
Yeah.
She knows it, or he knows it, right? And I think because we're trying to swing and bring more love, right? Hate the sin, love the sinner, right? We're trying to love the sinner.
Right.
Well, actually, what we're doing is loving the sin.
Yeah. Or at least like giving some form of like we're condoning it to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's okay. We had a couple at one time ask us about our own daughter, saying, "Well, if your daughter got married, would you go?" And we said, "No." Yeah. And they're like, "What?" It's easy to say because my daughter's not, right? But no, because that is condoning it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to stand as a witness in a wedding for something I don't believe in.
Yeah.
That I believe is actually a sin against what God desires. And so I think as parents, we have to understand that we are in this world, but not of it. Our kids are gonna see it, and I got to teach my kid how to handle it.
Yeah.
Right. But I've got to be also sensitive to their age, to what they're seeing, how they're right. Like there's different. Okay, we're going to a Christmas party, and we're going to someone else's house, right? And it's not their house. Okay, that's good. So you're gonna interact with this guy, and okay, cool. We're gonna go to their house, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of pictures of them at their wedding night,
right?
Or their wedding day.
I hope not
wedding night, right?
Ooh.
You're gonna see all these pictures, right? And I'm gonna have to answer a whole bunch of them as I see all these people are happy for them, and no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
It almost feels like, and give me some correction here. It almost feels like we have to like basically vaccinate our children to it, to where we're controlling the dosage of what they're getting. We're controlling when they're getting it, so that when they go out into the world, they don't get sick off of it, and they don't get surprised by it.
I think.
Okay?
No, I agree. I like that analogy. I think, the Amish, we most people understand Amish world, but I think we don't realize in the Christian world, we do that the same thing where we put our kids into a bubble.
Yeah. And then they have room spring.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they graduate high school.
Yeah.
And they get out in the real world, and they see everybody celebrating something. And they've never experienced it before, right? And so they just go nuts because they've never experienced, and they weren't taught how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like we can't have an all or nothing concept of saying, okay, my kid's never going to see anything wrong, right?
It's not real.
It's not reality.
Yeah.
But if they're going to see something wrong, a horrible relationship, all this other, I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to coach them through it.
Right.
I'm going to help them to understand how to process it. This is what the Bible says about it. This is what we believe about it. Yeah, you're seeing all these people happy and all this stuff, but understand the backstory, right? We're helping them process it because their little minds can't handle that.
Yeah.
We help them process it. So then the next time, at some point, when we're not with them, they can go back to that and go, okay, I know how to process this.
Yeah.
I got it. Right. But so many parents don't do that, unfortunately. Right. But that goes back to the parenting, teaching, raising. We're not doing that any longer.
Do you think that's because of the fear of if I even introduce it, if I even mention it to them?
For those that isolate, yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I think they do it in such a great heart. Again, because they're just trying to protect their kids. Man, I get that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want my kids to see anything. I don't want them to experience any of the stuff. But I also know that eventually they will, and I can't train them how to deal with something that they've never seen. Right. And so I think they do. They do it with the right heart. Like, I'm just going to protect them, and they'll finally get mature enough, and so when it happens, they'll be good. But it's so foreign.
Yeah.
It throws chaos into their world, and they're like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I was talking to somebody about sugar, right? And they never allowed their kid to have any sugar.
Oh, so they became a sugar addict.
Oh, completely. The first piece of candy. If you ever watched like Willy Wonka with
Justice Gloop, where he falls in the river.
No, I was thinking of Willy Wonka. Who's the guy? The actor. The second one, not the first one. Oh man, Pirates.
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, right? So
Long Wilburn.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. As a kid, right? His dad's a dentist.
Right.
His dad doesn't let him have any chocolate, any candy at all, right? And he gets some candy out of a fireplace that his dad's trying to melt, and it didn't melt, and he had it, and it just changed his life, right? Radically, he became Willy Wonka, a crazy guy, right? It's that story all over again, right? You didn't tell him how to handle sugar. You just told them sugar's bad.
Right.
And then they tasted sugar good.
Sugar very good.
Sugar very good, right? Right. And then all of a sudden they just go nuts.
Yeah.
And so I think, not that I'm condoning ever putting a kid into a bad situation. I'm not saying that. Don't go there, right? But I'm saying that I cannot protect my child 100% of the time forever. I'm going to have to walk through. I'm going to have serious conversations. And it's a bird and the bees conversation that no parent ever really wants to have with their kid, right? But I'm going to have this conversation with them at some point. Why don't
not, and they'll figure it out for themselves.
And that's the problem.
Exactly.
They wonder what's going on. In fact, it's interesting. Recent studies show that girls are quickly becoming the most addicted to pornography.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Honestly, I easily buy that because nobody talks to girls about sex.
Nobody. Yeah. And what's happening is that they're hearing the language at school, and they're going home, or they're Googling it. Basically, they're Googling, right? And they're getting introduced to it
in the worst possible way
as a norm. Yeah. As a norm, but the parents haven't talked to them.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden they're finding out their daughters are addicted to porn. They're figuring out, like, I think the average age now is 6 years old. The kids are being introduced to pornography. It just blows my mind. It's because parents are not parenting. They're allowing their kids to have their electronic devices, right, and doing whatever they want with it. So you look at that and go, that's just it's insane. Yeah. I was 12 when I saw my first Playboy. Yeah. It was my brother. My brother was 16, right? He showed me my first Playboy, right? 12. And I'm thinking, 6 years old, man. 6 years old. I just can't even.
That's a first grader.
Yeah. Oh, my word. That's insane. But because they're hearing words at school, going home, and they're Googling, and they're innocently going into it. But because the parents have not taught them how to deal with it, right? They can't deal with it. And let me just say this. The parents should be protecting their kids, and they shouldn't be having devices by themselves.
Right.
Because, again, they're not mature enough to handle that stuff.
Because they Googled something that should not be Googled.
Yeah. one of my favorite stories when I'm talking to parents about this whole world is at one point I Googled children Christian songs and porn sites came up, right? Because they can write algorithms, they can write things that will go into that code. I called my wife in immediately because I have an accountability partner, and I'm like, look at my search and look at what came in, right?
What?
Exactly. That is what is happening, right? And so thankfully, this a couple of years ago, filters are getting better and better and better, right? But understand what our world is going into.
Crazy.
So are you watching your kids? Oh, they can't. They're not going to do it. No.
Yeah.
They can find it.
Yeah.
And not only can they find it, it's trying to find them.
Yeah.
Right?
And even like Pinterest.
Oh.
Pinterest feels very benign,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like that's where I get my recipes from or whatever. It feels very benign. Pinterest is really inappropriate things because it's basically just a search engine.
Yeah.
Like it's still
Yeah.
just a search engine. And then you can hide things on a board and you can do all these things. Like
Right.
that's not safe either.
Right. Right.
And even like the most benign things
Yeah.
feel like they're not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
They're not.
Well, because the evil's out there. Evil's
Right.
always going to try to be evil.
And it's
Evil's
more-
always going to try to chase you down.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all about the windows, eyes, the soul. The idea of being able to get in there. And I mean, just again, it wraps all back up to the training.
Yeah.
Wraps all the way back up to what's my position, what's my role. If I want a functional family, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right? How do I act functionally? Right? Do what I've been created to do, and do the right things, and then how do I raise my family in that? And again, this is we talk about families, but this is for you as a single person as well.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be single? What does that look like? How am I functional? Well, again, the Bible has a lot of your answers, but it has more than anything. It's got your direction in it.
Yeah.
What direction should I go? What does that look like? Do I have accountability partners, biblical based, right? How do I have all of this stuff in there? Because my ultimate goal is to not be dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Because it's possible. It is possible. My wife and I have been married 33 years. Yeah, 33 years. I want to make sure I get that right. Right, 33 years.
Yeah.
We're the longest married couple in either side of our family in our known history.
That's crazy.
Right? Both of our daughters are in their 20s. Actually, I think my oldest is in her 30s now. Wow, she's old. Oh yeah, she'll be 30, just 30, 31.
Yeah.
Right? They're not married, out of choice.
Right.
Right? It's okay. They just haven't found the right guy, and they have no kids.
Yeah.
Like,
They
like
did everything in the right order.
it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
you look at that and go, it is possible to actually have a family that functions correctly.
Yeah.
Even if your background is complete dysfunction.
Right.
Now, are we 100% right all the time? No, I'm not saying that. We're not perfect. I'm not talking perfect at this point.
No, you're talking
But
about
I'm saying,
functional.
do we have the right order of things?
Yeah.
We got married, we had kids, we've got jobs, we're not living in poverty, we're not on welfare, we're not, and I'm not saying if you're on welfare you're dysfunctional, because some people are on welfare because life hit them.
Right.
Now others get a job, right? There's those moments,
Yeah.
right? But so you look at it and go, okay, what is dysfunction is not perfection, right?
Yeah.
Or the lack of perfection. And perfection is not, or being functional is not perfection either, right? So we look at it and go, okay, just what's my aim? My aim is just to function as we're supposed to,
Yeah.
right? Till death do us part. I'm going to be married to my wife, right? Or I'm going to raise my kids the right way, and pray that they continue to grow the way they need to grow and function as they are. They both serve the Lord still, right?
Yeah.
All of those things. That's the end goal. And so the hope is that when I have grandkids, if my daughters ever give me grandkids, they got to get married first, though.
Right.
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 When I have grandkids, right? And guess what? My grandkids will do the same thing.
Yeah.
They'll be raised. My daughters will stay married the rest of their lives, right? And all of a sudden, and we all get out of poverty. I was raised in poverty. That's why I'm talking about it, right? We're all out of poverty. I have no debt but my home, right? That's how I function. I've got a savings account. I got a 401k. I'm set. I'm not rich by any means, but I live a good standard because I worked hard. I did the right things. I taught my daughters how to do that. They're doing that. They're going to get a home. That right, they won't be in debt. Right, all these things. What is function, right? To be able to function that way, and because I'm just looking at the Bible, saying, what does the Bible say to be? It says, "Oh man, owe no man anything. Don't be in debt." Right.
Yeah.
So that, to be able to give when you need to give, and to help other people. Right. So that means I've got to have funds to be able to give when I need to go out and do things. Right. That means I've got to have the ability to do all that. Means I stay healthy. Right. Again, I think, when you look at life, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I try to exercise, but I eat healthy. We try to maintain. Why? Because my body's a temple of God. I want to make sure it looks decent,
And
right?
available for
And
service.
available for service, right? So that when I'm old, I think my grandfather, when he was in his 60s, he was debilitated. Basically, he just abused his body. So in the 70s, when I really kind of met him, he's hobbled, crippled, he's got cane, right? The whole thing. That's not who I want to be. I'm not faulting him, but I want to make sure I'm at the best use as I can be for my God.
Yeah.
And for my kids and for my grandkids. I hope I have grandkids. Daughters, are you hearing me? Get married. Find the right guy, get married, right? Give me grandkids so I can still play with them, right?
Right.
Because I didn't have a grandfather that ever played with me. I don't know what that's like, right? So that's one of my dreams, is like be able to go and play, hang out. I want to be that grandpa, right?
Yeah.
Look at grandpa, he can still play, right? So I think that's where we get in this dysfunction thing, is that we're called to be functional, and we can be functional. It's a possibility.
Right. It's a choice.
It really is a possibility that I can have a functional family, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point I'm trying to think what part of the story I can tell, but it was a leader in a church, and they were just kind of upset with life.
Yeah.
And they're like, "We want what you have." Like, but you've not paid the price I paid.
Yeah.
Right? You're unwilling to cancel your TV subscription, which I did. You're unwilling to go down to one car. You're unwilling to pay the price I had to pay. You look at where I'm living at, and you're jealous. You're eager for what I have, but you've not wanted to. I pastored for 11 years before I took a salary. Wow. Right?
Yeah.
And you've been pastoring, not even a year, and you're not making enough money.
Right.
You make more money now
than you did for 11 years.
Than I did for 11 years, right? And when I finally did start getting a salary, it paid my expenses for the month.
Right.
My traveling expenses to do the ministry.
Not your expenses to live.
Right.
Right.
My travel expenses, because I had hotel rooms and driving and all this other stuff I had to do. And I'm not sharing that to say like I'm anything, but I think we have to realize it costs.
Yeah.
To parent costs.
Yeah.
To be a good husband will cost you, right? It's worth it all in the end. I don't begrudge those seasons of my life where I was working a couple of jobs and doing because now where I'm at in my life right now, it's paid off.
Right.
Right. I'm in this situation where my wife and I can go on vacation, and every other year we go with our daughters still, right? Yeah. I'm able to afford that and do things, right? But I paid the price. My family's where they're at because I paid the price early on. I think dysfunction or family, I think we look at it as almost like a savings account. Am I putting the effort in to get money into that savings account so that it will pay me a reward?
Right.
Right. I'm earning interest now.
Yeah. And it's easy to look at someone else's middle and not their beginning and be jealous of their middle, but not understand the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. If you would have paid the price that I paid. Right. And I think that's the end goal. Are you willing to pay the price? Right. And here's the hardest thing. And I'm going to say this to some people. The dysfunction in your family you're living in right now, you may have to pay a price that you'll never see the reward. I think Abraham's a great example of that. Others are in the Bible are a great example where they pay the price. They weren't able to see the benefit, but your kids will. Yeah. Right. And because it's not too late. And I think some parents think it's too late. And even if your kids are out of their home right now, it's not too late to turn, right? Pay the price. And yeah, you may not see the benefit, but maybe your kids or maybe your grandkids will see that benefit. And isn't that what we should be doing? Right? And we think the generations, that's what I'm called to do. And man, I pray that what my wife and I went through is set our daughters up so that they don't have to go what through I went through. But more importantly, I'll tell you, is for me, so grandkids, right? That they can set a new standard for my family line, right? My wife's family line, a new standard, right? And so are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to believe that your dysfunction's not the norm, it's not the standard, but that I'm going to set a new foundation, and that setting a new foundation is going to cost you something, right? It means that you're going to have to die to some of the things that you like. Sometimes it's going to die to the things that you've done. Your norms have to begin to change. You have to change out your habits and do some other things that maybe are going to be uncomfortable. Have conversations or isolate people, right? Things that are going to hurt, but in the long run, they'll actually be the things that God desires you to do. And so therefore, what you've sowed, you will actually reap. The end. Amen. Amen. I felt like taking an offering on that one.
I mean, that was a pretty good sermon.
All right. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed or learned something, or enjoyed the conversation. Man, if there comments, questions, let us know. Like our stuff. If there's anything that you'd like us to talk about, let us know as well. Share this with others. But until next time, we'll see you.